Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
It's the 15th of April. The weather seems to have taken a turn. And I know this is a cricket show, but I'm going to start by talking about golf. Did you watch the Masters, Simon?
I didn't. I was watching White Lotus, the end of White Lotus.
Don't blame me, really. Normally, I don't watch the Masters, actually, unless there's some compelling story to follow it. And, I mean, this time there really wasn't there? I don't know. I just sense, like everybody, that this could be Rory McIlroy's chance, and it was absolutely compelling. You know what? I really watch golf because I like, in the same way as I like watching, like most of us, penalty shootouts, I like watching the putting, and I just try and assess whether I think guys have got the balls to sink those nasty little short putts in climatic situations. And I just watched Rory. He was on the 18th green. He had a 6-footer for the Masters, for the Grand Slam, to be the sixth person to achieve all four Masters. And I thought, no, he's not going to do it because he rushed it. And I always believe in, well, something I'd learned, I suppose, from being involved in a few tight sporting moments myself. Take your time, breathe. Don't rush it. There's a temptation to get it over with because, you know, it's a slight fear of failure. It's a slight worry that things are going to go wrong. You just want to get it over with. And actually, it's much better to take your time and just take a breath and try and sort of shut everything out. Think about your target. Think about your little challenge and just, you know, almost clear your head. And I thought he rushed it slightly, that putt, and he missed it. And I thought, oh God, you know, and like everybody, he's lost that's it. You know, that's another chance gone. The third time he could have won the Masters and he's let it slip. And I spent some time with Justin Rose years ago when I was feature writer for The Telegraph. And I actually was ghostwriter for Justin Rose in the early days of his career. And he just told me a great story about Tiger Woods and playing in the final round of a tournament with Woods, leading. They were the joint leaders of a tournament in America. And he was amazed at Woods's mentality. The first nine, he was expecting Woods to be all tense and intense and not talkative and take ages over every practice shot and yardage calculation. No, he was chatty. He talked about Bermuda, he talked about holidays. They were having a laugh going round. He was amazed, Justin Rose, and they were both still leading the tournament by the back nine starting. At the back nine, Tiger just changed, and he was totally focused, and he didn't communicate. He took ages over every practice shot and every club selection, and he won the tournament. And he explained afterwards that his approach to those, you know, critical high climaxes is you can't maintain your intense focus for the whole time, the 4 hours of the round. So he sort of let the round come to him initially. What will be. And then when he realized that things were going well, then he honed in on his target and won the tournament. And in that period, this was about 20 years ago, Tiger never lost a tournament when he was leading on the last day. And it just shows that you kind of got to make that. You've got to get the mindset right. You don't go being too tense or too relaxed, but a mixture of the two. Anyway, and so I just found it interesting. I thought Rose was going to win because he'd learned that from Tiger, and I could see his focus just intensifying enough at the end of his own round, and he holed a long putt on the 18th green himself, and then he'd done a few practice shots afterwards with the thought that maybe there was going to be this playoff. And I thought he was just in the right mindset to win that playoff. And actually, he hit a great second shot on the first playoff hole. But the brilliance of McIlroy, just upstaged him. And he managed to took a little bit more time for a shorter putt to win it. But it was and it's been regarded in the Telegraph today as, you know, one of the great British sporting moments, that Masters win, which now puts him in that Hall of Fame with 5 other great golfers as Grand Slam winners.
The cynics might say golf has overtaken the England cricket team. Now it's overtaken the Analyst Inside Cricket podcast as well. Meanwhile, in White Lotus, I think Rick should have just taken a few moments to breathe before he did what he did at the end. I won't give away the ending for those people who haven't watched it.
Do you know how many times you breathe a day, by the way?
Oh, God.
Silly little trivial fact. Have a guess. That's 3.
Where are we going? We'll get on to talking about cricket.
Just a day we take 20,000 breaths a day. So take another couple, and then we'll start on the cricket talk.
Okay. Well, they must take quite a lot of breaths towards the end of an IPL match, because those denouements take forever, don't they? They can easily lag sort of 4 overs into half an hour. No trouble at all. Anyway, we'll touch on the IPL a little bit later on, because 1 or 2 really interesting things have happened over the weekend. Not least MS Dhoni, who you were lauding, and then he was involved in one of the worst ever IPL games last Friday, and then a dramatic intervention yesterday. But the county championship, Yoz, it feels the weather has broken. It's raining in London today. I reckon there might be a few bowlers up and down the country who are hoping it probably rained yesterday, actually, and possibly the day before. There's a lot of overs being bowled by a lot of bowlers, and lots of draws in the second round of matches. I made it. There were 5 draws in all in the first and second division, but some dramatic cricket as well. Where should we start? Should we start at the Riverside with Durham and Warwickshire? Another a fascinating end to a championship match. A 1-wicket victory for Warwickshire. Ethan Bamber, formerly of Middlesex, hitting Ben Rain for 6 to win the game with the scores level. And that was a tremendous chase from Warwickshire when you consider that, what were they, 90 for 5, needing over 300 to win. Everyone seems to bat these days, don't they? You really have to winkle teams out. It's not, especially when the pitches are, it's quite flat. Actually, they have been reasonably flat.
That is understatement, actually. I mean, they've been really flat, I think. I mean, the sort of groundsmen have been very happy, I should think, because, they've unveiled some superb surfaces, but some of them are a bit too good. And you're absolutely right.
Are they good pitches then? That's
right. Too flat is what I meant, as opposed to too good. You want a balance between bat and ball. There doesn't seem to be an absolute flock of fantastic fast bowlers in county cricket, but maybe there never were. Maybe it was always a place where there was lots of sort of nagging seamers, and the nagging seamers haven't got much respite out of these pitches. Your man, we'll come to this later, the 5 to follow that we've picked at the beginning of the season. Your man, Ben McKinney, had a fantastic game for Durham, 150 in the first innings and a few in the second innings, and came up on the losing side. And what was interesting about that run chase, actually, was Matt Potts had a good match for Durham. Bowled well, got runs in each innings, 70 in the first innings, 30 odd in the second innings, batting down the order. And he got what I thought was the key wicket, the 9th Warwickshire wicket, with 15 to win. He bowled a beautiful ball, to Booth, and cleaned up 2 stumps, and superb. And I thought, right, that's it. Durham are going to win. But actually, Bamber and the last man, Fernando, the Sri Lankan, held out well, and Bamber looks a good player. And when they needed about 10 to win, he went across his stumps and ramped a boundary with 1 wicket left, which was, fantastic shot. Ramped a boundary to fine leg off Ben Rain. Wow, what an audacious heist it was. And then, the crowning moment, a straight 6 back over the bowler's head to win the game, 1 wicket in hand, last wicket stand of 15. In that pressure was absolutely brilliant, and puts Warwickshire, early days, of course, puts Warwickshire top of the championship table.
Yeah, 3 teams at the top with 35 points, Sussex and Nottinghamshire up there. We'll talk about Sussex and Somerset in just a moment. Just a bit on McKinney. I dropped in on him in the 90s. He had to wait a long time because Potts was batting with him at the other end, and Potts was batting really well. I mean, he's a capable cricketer. I think he's really capable of scoring lower order runs, Matthew Potts. And perhaps that's one way into the England side, is to show you when you get that opportunity for England, say, is not just to toss it away with a few big shots, but actually show some resilience and work it around or whatever and make the most of it. And he made runs, and he actually took a lot of the strike. He was taking singles off the last ball, the over, not because he was being contrary, but just that's the way the tactics of the game were working. So McKinney had to wait, and then eventually got one away through the offside to reach his 100, and then go on as well. 153, 33 runs in the second. He's a bit stiff, isn't it, when he scored 186 runs in a championship match and finish on the losing side? But he's made, well, that was a really good effort from him. He didn't make that many runs in the opening round of matches, but he's clearly a player that England are, was so definitely on England's radar. I noticed that Zach Crawley, who is a bit vulnerable at the moment, you feel, potentially, although England do like him a lot, another duck in the first innings, but runs in the second innings. And he got that Kent innings going in their victory against Middlesex. He scored freely against the seamers early on. When Goffart came on, the so left-arm spinner that Middlesex pinched from Gloucestershire, he struggled a bit, actually. It was no surprise when he cleaned him up. He had a couple of LBW shouts against him. I was watching that, and he was just kind of going hard and playing across the line. And there was one he survived. I thought, oh, that could easily be out. And the Middlesex team thought he was out as well, but didn't last that much longer. But I mean, Kent, fantastic victory. They romped to that win. Probably got them going, but it was the others really who took them over the line.
Did you say pinched from Gloucestershire?
I was only tongue in cheek.
I mean, it's a free market,
I know.
Sorry, but if you
it's the lure of the.
You can't keep them. Sorry, mate.
It's the lure of the smoke.
Don't offer lots of money, by the way.
No.
I think he must have just wanted to go and play at Lords. Well, understandable, really. Use the slope, get a bit of extra spin. I just want to pick up on a couple of things actually there. Since we've alighted on McKinney and Crawley, one thing that strikes me as sort of strange is that they're both tall batters. We know Zach Crawley, 6'4". McKinney must be close to that, maybe 6'2", 6'3". Unusual, really, but you don't get that many tall batters. And the odd thing is, neither of them use their reach at all. And I find that really strange because, they've got that major asset, which is a big potential stride into the ball, which should make them, and it made someone like Graham Hick a very dominant player because he used his reach and he could, and Peterson was another actually, who could use their reach to get closer to the ball on a length and make it harder for a bowler to bowl a good length because they could drive you on the up when it wasn't that full because of their reach and their stride. Now, Crawley and McKinney do not use that height at all. And I mean, I worry about McKinney a bit, actually. I mean, early days in his career, but he doesn't move his front foot at all. He stands slightly, he's a left-hander, he stands slightly open with his right foot sort of outside the leg stump to an over-the-wicket bowler. And that foot hardly moves. And he's got a great eye, and he hits it on the up very well. And he's particularly good on the pull shot. He picks the length early, a bit like Crawley, and pulls bowlers off their length. But if you bowl a bit fuller to him, outside off, he doesn't look as good. He looks shaky. You go round the wicket, you bowl that good line, just a bit of movement away, a right-arm bowler round the wicket. And I don't think he looks at all convincing to me. All right, he's got 150 and a 30-odd. He obviously played well. It was a flat pitch. I didn't think the Warwickshire bowling was all that good. It was a bit sort of mediocre, really. And, so he dominated. But, if he wants to play international cricket, I think he's got to use his front leg more, get closer to the ball. And I know that's an old-fashioned approach. It sounds like Jeff Boycott saying we've got to get it over the line and foot to the pitch and good technique and all that. You still do need a bit of technique at test level. And Crawley's been found out because he doesn't move his foot. He leaves a gap. How many times does he get bowled or LBW to a nip backer? A lot, because he doesn't move his front leg. He leaves a gaping hole between bat and pad. And McKinney needs to watch out for that, I think.
Okay, well, that's finished Ben McKinney's career then.
It's just something you can work on, I think.
Yeah. No,
this far, great. Very talented, obviously. But I think that's a technical area he needs to work on.
Yeah, well, he's only 20, isn't he? And he's making his way in the game. He's showing early promise, and he's definitely on England's radar. He's been compared to Marcus Trescothick
Yeah,
as
yeah,
that type of player.
a player. Yes, yeah. Well, funnily enough, Truscothick often struggled against little medium paces.
Mm.
You know, he was good against pace bowling, excellent, and spin, but those the in between bowlers, those whole nagging medium pacers who just nibble it one way and the other. Truscothick hated facing those. And luckily, you know, he didn't face too many. It was a kind of era when there was quite a lot of pace bowlers around, and he was very strong against them.
I don't know if you've noticed, yours. We featured Durham in our sort of county season preview, and we featured Somerset in our pre-season county preview. We focused on those two counties, and what would you know? Durham have lost both their matches so far, and Somerset have lost one and couldn't get over the line against Worcestershire in the other. But well played to Sussex, their first win in the county championship first division for 10 years, and they actually hammered Somerset, didn't they? They gave them a real shellacking. They had to work hard on the final day, and the final wicket went around the sort of tea interval. Well, actually, the tea interval was delayed on the final day, so Somerset made them work hard. But Sussex, taking control of the game, bowling Somerset out relatively cheaply, despite 18 not out from James Rew. So more runs from James Rew is another one of the players that I'm sort of. When I say, because when we say these are players you must follow, what we're saying is these are players we're interested in to see how they develop. I'm not saying they're going to succeed this season, but these are the players that we're looking at, and McKinney is one. I'm looking to see how he develops. I'm looking to see what he comes up with, and James Rew is another one.
You're just bragging. Well. You're just bragging. You picked a couple of guys that have done well, all right? And I'm trying to unpick their ability. That's all right. Fine, but actually James Rew does look a good cricketer. Unfortunately, on the losing side, Somerset. Yeah, I mean they're struggling for bowlers, aren't they? Really? I mean, obviously they've got Jack Leach and Archie Vaughan bowling a lot of spin, but that in a way suggests that their seamers aren't doing the work.
Well, also it suggests, doesn't it? The pitches they played on are pretty flat, and also, I mean, incredible that Vaughan and Leach have now bowled in the second innings of the opening. Combine the two matches that Somerset played, they bowled 200 overs between them in the second innings of the opening two matches of the season, which is amazing. It's not even April the 15th today, so before the middle of April. They bowled a phenomenal number of overs. I think you mentioned it actually before the start of the season, whether Somerset had that sort of like spearhead to their attack, that sort of pace to get through. But then it's a point in general in county cricket, isn't it? And it's one of the things that people can point to is the fact that there are these 7 rounds of matches in April and May. It's quite intense. You've got the 3-day break between games, especially with the weather being good up until now. It is hard. It's damn hard work out there, isn't it? If you're constantly backing up the whole time, you've got to have a battery of bowlers, I suppose, and the pitches are quite slow as well. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to keep backing up and to be able to maintain that high pace.
I mean, you need. That's why you need a battery of fast bowlers, and I think that's one of the things that the Middlesex team that I played in a long time back now. But we did have 5 or 6 fast bowlers who could all alternate.
Did you get rotated in your day?
We did a lot of rotation because one year we had Norman Cowans, Neil Williams, Angus Fraser, myself, Ricardo Elcock, and even Angus Fraser's brother, Alistair Fraser, who was quite quick as well. So we had 5 or 6 people who could all come in and do a job, and you needed that depth, really. And, 1990, we won the county championship at Sussex, in fact, the last game of the season down at Sussex. And I remember going and being invited into the committee room at Sussex afterwards. And the Sussex committee, well played, well chap, fantastic performance. And I went and into the Sussex committee room, and I was actually knackered because I'd bowled a lot of overs. And I went and sat in this old armchair in the Sussex committee room at Hove. And this committee man said, "Get out of that chair. You can't sit in that chair. That's Ranjit Singh's chair." And so I had to get out of this chair. And I thought, well, what's the point of having it there if you can't sit in it? Anyway, it's a bit of a digression, that. But Sussex, I'm good to see them. Paul Farbrace, of course, head coach there now. Sean Hunt came into that team, Sussex team, left armour, only because Ollie Robinson was injured, and he took 9 wickets in the match. left
Yeah.
arm over. So, well done to him. And it just shows, good reserves are very valuable.
What about the match at the Oval? So Surrey now, the defending champions, are looking to win the title 4 times in a row. They batted out for a draw in the last game. This time they were thwarted by a really determined effort from Hampshire, with 3 down overnight going into the final day. Admittedly, 2 of those were lower order players who've been bumped up the order to protect the top order batters on that third evening. So Sonny Baker was one of them, bounced out first ball. Brad Wheel was another one who was dismissed. So they did have sort of batters in hand on the final day, and they only lost 2 wickets. And then bad light struck at around about 6 o'clock. Now I live about 5 miles from the Oval, and actually the light, when they came off, I saw bad light. It was actually the sun was nearly out where I am, but of course it was obviously dark a bit over the Vauxhall area, and they came off a bad light, which I don't think you approved of, yours.
I just want to rip out any hair I've got left when I see that, because it just so annoys me. The floodlights are on. It's a fantastic climax to the game. Hampshire needed 78 to win. 10
Was it going to be a draw anyway, though, do you think?
Could have been, but I mean, 78 off 10 isn't exactly, too onerous, is it? They had wickets in hand. They had people like Liam Dawson still to come in. The batters were going well. The pitch was flat. They'd taken the second new ball, Surrey, and it hadn't made any impact. The short boundary on one side. We all know at the Oval, if you hit the ball across the square, it races off to the fence. And then the floodlights are on, and the batsmen are looking in no trouble, and then they come off a bad light. It goes back to that ludicrous moment last summer when Chris Woakes was bowling and a Sri Lankan got run out, and in comes number 3, and the umpires say you can't bowl. Woakes can't bowl anymore. It's too dark, and so he has to bowl 4 balls of off breaks, although that contravened the Trade Descriptions Act. They were lollipops, all whacked to the boundary mostly. And then the light apparently improved again, and he was able to bowl normally again. I mean, it makes a total farce, a charade of the game when you've got floodlights on and apparently it's too dark. So we have to have pink balls on standby. If everyone insists that you can't see the dark red ball when the floodlights are on, when the daylight has declined to a certain level, we have to have pink balls on standby. I don't care if they're not the same. I don't care if it's slightly aged or newer or whatever. They've got to keep playing. I mean, do we want to play cricket or not? It just really annoys me. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this
one back all the time.
Yeah, I mean, in this situation, it probably would have been a draw, because if Hampshire had gone for it, might have lost a couple of wickets.
We're talking probably. Why?
No, I agree. I
play to a conclusion.
Well, I suppose the point I was just going to go on to make is what would have happened, of course, if it had been 38 to win from 10 overs with 3 wickets left. An even tighter situation.
Yeah.
But we have seen players walk off there was a test match at the Oval where they walked off right near the end, and then the game ended in a draw. That was in an Ashes series where
that's right.
Australia declared, and England didn't look as though they're going to chase them down. Then very nearly.
It always seems to happen at the Oval, doesn't it? As well.
Okay, it happens at all grounds, doesn't it? Yeah. Where the players come off. It is frustrating, but I don't know. Probably the game would have ended in a draw. But no, you're right. But Hampshire batted quite slowly all day, hadn't they? They were looking to sort of play out for a drawn game, but they were in a reasonable position.
I don't think you can say they were playing out for a drawn game. I think they were just trying to assert a platform. I mean, Nick Gubbins played really well, got 100. They were just getting set for potentially a late charge, weren't they? And they played it really well, actually, to that point. By the way, I mean, one sort of shining light out of that game, apart from Gubbins and a good performance by Hampshire, I was impressed, and you mentioned him yourself before, Sonny Baker. He's another one of your picks, actually.
So 5 for 80 in 14 overs in the second innings.
He bowled really well, and there was shades of both Darren Gough and Simon Jones in how he bowls. Skiddy pace, round the wicket in swingers to right-handed batters, sort of reverse swing, Yorkers, beating them for pace, and bustling action, good pace. Not a big guy, I mean, not tall, sort of, probably 5'11" or something, but definitely got some pace and some aggression. And I like the look of him, actually. He looks like a find. And he's going to give Hampshire a bit of a cutting edge, which obviously they've always had excellent seam bowlers, but no one with real pace. And their pace bowler is on loan to Lancashire at the moment, John Turner. I mean, what a hell are Lancashire doing? A place where there's so much cricket played and they're borrowing fast bowlers from other counties. That's bizarre.
Well, so Johnny Baker was another one of my 5 to follow. Very quickly, the other two. Sam Cook picked up 4 for 44 in the first innings against Nottinghamshire from 25 overs, then took 1 wicket in the second innings, about 44 overs in the game, picked up 5 wickets. So he's had a sort of steady enough start to the season. Nothing dramatic or spectacular. His next chance is against Worcestershire at Chelmsford on Friday. And the other one, Shoaib Bashir, well, he was playing on a pretty flat pitch at Bristol, slow, flat pitch. There was a fraction of turn. I watched quite a bit of him bowling. He did get Ollie Price, LBW, just after Price had got to 100. It was actually quite a loose shot. Bashir was bowling round the wicket. He's got one to straighten. He played back. He was a bit careless, really. It's one of those balls you thought, yeah, it's a reasonable ball, but you probably shouldn't get out to it. Certainly not if you've got 100. I don't know, there's a lapse of concentration. And then his other wicket was Graham Van Buren, last man out, stumped. So 2 for 127 from 28.5 overs. But I mean, all the bowlers found it hard on that Bristol pitch. That was Gloucester got over 500 in the first innings, and Glamorgan actually batted out quite comfortably for a draw. So I mean, the problem is you're bowling on pitches that don't give you very much. Really, and actually, Shoaib Bashir was bowling at a stage of the game where the pitch was probably at its best. That first innings, and they didn't. He didn't bowl in the second half of the game because the way it transpired that Glamorgan were made to follow on. So you didn't see him at the back end of the game bowling on a fourth day pitch. But not figures that nothing to write home about, really. He was steady. He got knocked around a bit at the start, and then he got into his work and was. Not particularly threatening, but also no one really tried to take him on. You think sometimes in Test cricket, people really try and take him on, hit him down the ground, but they would just knock him around, nudging him around. Anyway, so that's Shoaib Bashir and my 5 to follow in this second round of matches. What about yours? How did they go? Yours?
Well, all right. Alex Davis will be happy, captain of Warwickshire, that brilliant win at Durham. And he had a good hand to play as well, 38 and 50 in the game, 50 in the second innings, which sort of set up the run chase that they got in the end, 344 run chase. So great day for Alex Davis as captain of Warwickshire. Rehan Ahmed, interesting. Leicestershire have decided to open with him. And I mentioned this in the podcast last week after our review of the first round of matches, that surprisingly they put him into open in the second innings of their first match to chase 50-odd to win. And they got the runs for no wicket, and he got about 20 not out. I thought that was quite interesting. I thought maybe he was sent in to finish the game quickly or something, because he's quite a fast scorer. But they tried it in this second match as well as an opener, Rehan. And in the second innings, he got 77 off 59 balls. I noticed he hit about 12 boundaries. So, he's one of those batters who... he's quite expansive. He's quite expressive. He looks to take the bowlers on, and he did it effectively. Maybe, and I didn't watch any of the innings, but I just saw his stats. Maybe he needs to work on a sort of in-between game as well, because he looks like a bit of a dasher, and that he maybe needs a bit more light and shade in his approach. But that was a success. Not many wickets. His bowling hasn't been effective at all so far, but spinners have found it hard, haven't they, so far? Jack Carson at Sussex, I think, had some problems with his fingers, sore fingers already, April the 15th. So, not much impact with the ball from him, but runs in both innings for Sussex down the order. So he can certainly bat. And I think it's a key thing, these spinners, especially finger spinners. And we had somebody on our podcast a while ago, and I can't remember if it was Lewis Gregory or Sam Northeast saying, or it might have been Mason Crane saying, finger spinners need to be able to bat as well to get enough game time, because otherwise, especially at sort of test level, if you can't bat as a finger spinner, you're less likely to be picked. And so a finger spinner who can bat, Dom Bess, interestingly, 100 for Yorkshire. He's been forgotten about as a finger spinner, hasn't he, really, for England anyway. But he got 100 for Yorkshire as night watchman. So, those two, Ray and Ahmed, obviously a wrist spinner, and Jack Carson, the fact they can both bat, certainly in their favour over Bashir.
So that's three. Who are the other two?
Well, Josh Tongue didn't play.
Yeah.
After a 5 in his first match.
Yeah.
And the other one I picked, and Archie Vaughan, Michael's son, very promising young player, pretty tall order opening the batting in Championship cricket as a youngster. So he didn't do well with the bat this match at Sussex, 14 and 11. So 2 relative failures, couple of wickets in that 40-over spell in the first innings. So, yeah, I mean, nothing much to write home about for Archie Vaughan so far, but, long way to go.
Okay, so Warwickshire, Sussex and Nottinghamshire at the top of the Championship table, and Kent at the top in Division 2. After the break, we'll touch on no root or brook for Yorkshire, or not very much for Yorkshire, a change that's being punted by the ICC in one-day bowling regulations, and also MS Dhoni in the IPL.
Yeah. So just a bit more county cricket. It kind of relates to England, of course, is the news that Harry Brook and Joe Root are being provisionally allowed to play only one match for Yorkshire in the county championship before the international summer gets underway. The game against Warwickshire at the start of May. Yorkshire have 7 matches before the end of May. It's unrealistic to expect Root and Brook to play in at least 2 of them. One, because it clashes with the test match against Zimbabwe. The other one, because it's just before the Zimbabwe match. So they potentially had 5 available. Just one game for Harry Brook and Joe Root. I don't think Yorkshire are particularly happy with it. Probably Brook and Root might want to play for Yorkshire, I don't know. But just the one game because one thing you've got to remember is that they are employed by England. They are England players who these days kind of loaned to Yorkshire in a way. I know it's quite difficult for county supporters and Yorkshire supporters to understand that because they produce the players. They do get compensation for it. How do you see that? Do you think actually they do need a bit more cricket going into the international summer?
I think you do. I think you do need a bit more cricket. And I mean, obviously, they've both played a fair bit in the winter. Both Roots played in the SA20 and some of England's one-day games, and Brook has played in the one-day games. We reckon that they've both played around 12 to 14 one-day innings since the start of the year, which is, it's a reasonable amount. But I think, when you're coming into a test summer, you do want to just feel the rhythm of batting, and you don't get that in the nets at all. And it might be, if they play one game, they might get a couple of low scores, or the weather might not be so good or whatever, and suddenly they haven't had any proper batting. And I do think they should have 2 games, really. And anyway, I think as a player, you want to play for your county. And I know they're being told by England and so on, you've got to save your, charge your batteries and save your mental energies and all that. And I do get that, but I think you just want to play a bit more. And, there's this desperation to play. But apart from anything else, they're missing the Yorkshire-Durham game this next weekend, which is, by the way, is the game with the biggest trophy in world sport. It's this trophy for Durham against Yorkshire, which is about 6 foot tall. I don't know where it is kept, but it's an absolute monument. It's a monolith, and it's keeping the steel companies in clover anyway. With all that kind of controversy going on, it's a huge thing. Anyway, they're missing that game and several others, and I just feel, I always remember when Marcus Trescothick, when he finished for England, do you remember he went home from that India tour, suffering from homesickness and so on, and mental stress and stuff. And I felt for him really, because all he ever, the only cricket he played was England. he never got to play some nice relaxed matches for Somerset. He was always opening the batting for England, either in one-day internationals or tests. And the stress must have been enormous. And I feel the same with Root and Brooke. They only ever play for England practically. And that is really hard. And sometimes you just want to sort of re-engage with the joy, the fun of playing cricket and play some innings for your county where there is a little bit less pressure, a little bit less intensity, a little bit less attention, and you can actually just enjoy it. And I think that's important. And they're being denied that. Whether that's right, I don't know, but I think it's a shame.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of cricket to come for both of them. I mean, you're talking about not playing much cricket before, well, any cricket before May. Well, in your day, you didn't play that much in April anyway, did you? You started to sort of begin to really start to tick over in May with those one-day matches, say, and then into a bit of championship. Brooks got a phenomenal schedule ahead of him, hasn't he? If he plays everything, it's a pretty intense summer for him now as England white ball captain in both T20 and one-day international cricket. The Test match against Zimbabwe. Then there's the 100, which I presume he's going to be playing in, and Root will be playing in as well, because that's the prestige competition in the middle of the summer. As far as the ECB are concerned, they want them to play. They want those players to play, and then into South Africa, and then potentially New Zealand, and then into the Ashes. I mean, it's an enormous amount for Harry Brook, and Joe Root's part of that as well. But he's also much older as well, isn't he? I mean, you kind of want to sort of manage him because he's mid-30s now, moving towards his mid-30s. Played an awful lot of cricket. It does seem strange, only one game. Yeah, to me, it's like two. You probably think, that seems about right.
The balance is a bit wrong. And I mean, I take your point. The amount of cricket, we worked it out, didn't we? England this year have 10 Test matches. Zimbabwe 4 tests against Australia, 5 against India, and then the final Ashes Test match is obviously in the following year, 2026. So 10 Test matches, and in a total, they'll be playing a total of 27 one-day matches as well. And that doesn't include the tour to New Zealand, where there's some one-day games. So it's probably over 30 one-day internationals or T20s and 10 Test matches. It is a lot. It is a huge amount. And Brooke will be potentially part of all of those, although they might spare him the New Zealand matches at the end of in October. So it is tough, but I still think that balance. Well, this time of year, you want to play cricket. They're both cricket badgers. They love cricket. They love batting. That's why they're so successful. And sometimes you need to sort of save them from themselves. I accept that, because otherwise they'll just be in the nets and wanting to bat all the time. And, I guess, you only have a certain amount of energy that you can give to that, but still think a little bit more would be good.
Yeah, I mean, who's this benefiting? The whole idea for this is to benefit the players and England, isn't it? Because that's their primary focus. That's the team they are paid to play for, essentially, these days. So the Yorkshire thing, you kind of have to change your mindset a bit. It's weird, isn't it? Because obviously Yorkshire develops you, and that's part of your whole culture, cricket culture, and you want to give something back, and you want to play. But now they're essentially England players, aren't they? Until they don't have those central contracts. That's what central contracts is all about, and that's how England. And so their decision is solely based on how the managing of those players is going to benefit England. It's nothing really to do with Yorkshire. Although, of course, it can help Yorkshire if they play for them and score some runs and win a couple of matches. Say, your focus is England.
Yeah, I see that. By the way, I thought the Yorkshire's stream was very good this week. They seem to have more cameras on their game, which allowed me to analyse the dismissal of Johnny Bairstow in the first innings of their match, which of course they won. I mean, remarkable performance. They beat Worcester by 504 runs. They set them over 600 to win in the fourth innings. And that is the highest by runs. That's the highest ever win in a championship match by any county, by just the runs deficit. But anyway, Bairstow in the first innings came into bat, got to 7, and then he received a shortish ball from Finch, the Worcester bowler, and he swayed out of the way, dropped his hands. The ball went through sort of waist high, and he was given out caught off a glove. Well, I was able to see from Yorkshire's excellent coverage, actually, a replay from a low angle, quite close up, and I froze it at the point of contact, and it definitely missed his glove and brushed his shirt. So he had some justification for standing there looking a bit aggrieved, but he lingered a bit too long. Few words exchanged with the Worcester players as he walked off. They obviously gave him a bit of a send-off. And then he whacked the boundary ball with his bat going off as well. So I don't know if the match referee had anything to say about that, but it was caught on camera, unfortunately. Poor old Johnny. Oh dear. I mean, he does sort of get it. He's his own worst enemy in some ways, isn't he?
So can you remember all the rough decisions you had in your career, or can you remember one or two specific? I can still remember one when I was 11 years old, when I nicked one onto my pad and I was given out LBW in a primary school match. So it does linger for batters. Can you remember any rough decisions?
One was at Canterbury, and I was playing all right actually. It was numbers 10 and 11, so they suspended the tea interval because they had to allow the final wicket to fall. And eventually, about 20 minutes into the tea interval, I got a ball from Alan Igglesden, the now sadly deceased Alan Igglesden, from the Nackington Road end. So the slope going down the leg side. It hit me on the pads. It would have missed leg by a good distance. Given out by umpire Peter Willey, who's, of course, David Willey's father. And as we were walking off, I just kind of sidled up to him and I said, "Hey, Will, I'm sure that wasn't out." And he went, "No, it wasn't out. I was just busting for a piss." So thanks.
Top level international sport or top level professional sport, folks. Yeah, the umpire needed to go off for a wee.
No, that was a bit of a rough one. But most of my dismissals were stumps lying flat on the ground, so I couldn't really argue.
Yeah, well, I suppose you have to take the rough with the smooth. Sometimes it's not easy to take the rough, though, is it? Right. What else have we got to talk about today? So we talked about this a while back, Yoz, the one-day international cricket, this sort of imbalance between bat and ball. And it looks as if the ICC are going to try and do something about that now. And what they've come up with is a proposal that's going to go to their sort of from the cricket committee that's going to go to the main committee in July, is that they use 2 balls at the start of the innings, but after 34 overs, they just use 1. So one of those 2 balls is selected. And the thinking behind this is explain.
Well, the thinking behind it is that it's ridiculous still using 2 new balls because firstly, it does make it much easier for batters to whack sixes at the end of the innings because you're playing against hard balls which don't keep low or get scuffed up. And I think the main thing is to encourage a bit of reverse swing later in the innings by having an aged ball, which they haven't got. The oldest ball you get in a one-day international now is 25 overs old, isn't it? And that's still pretty new, relatively, even if it's been lashed for 250 runs. A 25 over old ball is still reasonably hard and gives the batsman that leverage, and there's no reverse swing you can ever get from a ball that's 25 overs old usually. At least with a ball 35, 40, 45 overs old, you might just get that bit of help later in the innings, which brings the bowlers back into it. That's the main thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, so basically it's to give the bowlers something back towards the end of the innings rather than just being pongoed into the stand. I think you suggested a few weeks ago that they were going to do it after 20 overs, so 10 overs, and then the 1 ball for the last 30 overs. So this is kind of like a halfway house. So we'll see how that transpires, and it seems something definitely worth experimenting with. It doesn't look as it's going to happen in time for the West Indies series, but it might well do for the back end of the English summer and into the autumn. Now, yours on I think your crick verse, certainly on X this week. Certainly on X this week, you posed the question, what do MS Dhoni, Viv Richards and Michael Jordan have in common? And on WhatsApp, I rather facetiously sent you the question, they all played on for too long. But actually, so you wrote an article in praise of MS Dhoni, whose Chennai Super Kings have been doing really poorly actually in the IPL. He's taken over as captain again because Ruturaj Gaikwad is injured. Well, he kind of presided over was involved in one of the worst games I think I've ever seen in the IPL. on Friday when they made 101 for 9 against KKR. It was torturous stuff on their home ground, and KKR came out and knocked them off in 10 overs. But yesterday, Dhoni came out and smacked it here, there, and everywhere, and won his team the game in Lucknow. So, I mean, he's a remarkable cricketer. He's actually top of the averages for CSK. And he's also got the best strike rate of anyone who scored over about 20 or 30 runs. I think Jamie Overton has got the best strike rate, but he's made one innings of 11 not out very quickly. So, actually, despite the fact he can't run these days, or can't run very quickly, can't run twos, he's actually doing pretty well for CSK in a kind of a cameo role. And he came out and he won them the game yesterday. And the other incredible thing, just watching it, is this game was played in Lucknow, which is a long way from Chennai, but the ground was just full of yellow shirts supporting CSK. I mean, he's a remarkable phenomenon. It's almost as if they can't let him go, can they? They can't say goodbye to him. He's almost like still too important for the IPL. And there's a sort of, well, I think you said it, as a kind of deification of him.
Yeah, they are deifying him, aren't they? And John Houghton, the cricket writer, actually wrote a really interesting piece in total contrast to my piece, which was a sort of eulogy. And he was saying that Chennai sort of don't know how to say goodbye to him. And it's almost like this bright sunshine of Dhoni is sort of blinding them, and they can't see the reality, which is that he's past it. Well, actually, I don't think he is past it. He can't run, as you say, quite as much anymore, but he's still got this kind of sort of Midas touch. He's got this genial ability to still make runs and make bowlers quiver. That's the point. Bowlers still, I go back to, and I've played it a few times on this podcast, actually, the sound of him walking out to bat in Chennai, which is deafening, and you've never heard anything like it. The sort of almost hysteria as he arrives at the wicket. And that does affect you as a bowler. And I remember this happening to the left armer, Unadkat, playing for the Rajasthan Royals, who just went to jelly as he bowled the last over of the innings, and Dhoni took him for 28. And it was just magnificent hitting. And Dhoni's still got that ability now. And I just remember, actually, the reason why I compared it to Viv Richards and Michael Jordan was that I'd had experience of bowling Viv Richards, and I remember the feeling of legs turning to jelly when he came out to bat, and just that sort of aura that he had, just intimidating even before he'd actually taken guard. And Michael Jordan as well was someone who, and I witnessed this in the flesh, actually, that the score would be 42 all, Chicago Bulls against whoever. They'd give Jordan the ball with 15 seconds to go of the match, and he just bounced the ball casually in mid-court, and then with 8 seconds to go, would make his move, duck past a couple of defenders, weaving and bouncing the ball and doing a couple of sort of feint passes, and then do his famous kind of jumping fade and hang time, and his slam dunk just as the buzzer went for the end of the match, the winning points. And the thing about Jordan was that everybody knew what he was going to do, but everybody was powerless to stop him. No one seemed to be able to do anything about it. And Dhoni and Viv Richards have the same kind of impact on their opponents, which is partly why I think CSK still believe in him. And actually, not only did he yesterday smack some important runs in a run chase, which was a key victory, but also he executed the most extraordinary run out. A ball went down the leg side, and he was keeping, and either it sort of bobbled a little bit away from him, and they went through for a bye, but he managed to gather the ball, underarmed it from sort of a leg slip position. It looped over the batsman running to the far end's head, landed on the wicket, and he was run out. Absolute genius. He's a marketing phenomenon, Dhoni. He was the start of the IPL, really. He was someone who he captained India to the T20 World Cup in 2007, and I remember there were 6 million people sort of lining the streets when that team arrived back in India as the world champions, and then the IPL began after that. And Dhoni has been, centre stage ever since, and he still is doing it remarkably. They are loath to get rid of him because he's iconic.
Yeah, it's really weird watching it. It almost as if they come to the church to worship. Really,
Yeah.
they almost don't care what he does. But yesterday he hit this incredible one-handed six. He was done by a slower ball.
Yeah.
He just went through with a shot and lifted it over deep mid wicket. One hand was off the bat. I mean, it was an extraordinary shot. The
He's a
boundaries aren't the
circus act, isn't
biggest.
he? He's a circus act in the biggest cricketing circus in the world.
Mm.
He's top
Yeah.
of the...
Yeah, I mean, his team are not doing particularly well, but they did win yesterday thanks to him, or not only thanks to him. Shivam Dubé played well as well. But yeah, on we go. It's a bizarre sort of mixture of a competition, the IPL, with some hideous things happening in it and some astonishing things happening in it as well. I mean, there's much to admire. There's much to be cynical about, in a way. I mean, Abhishek Sharma the other day, that was a brilliant 100 for Sunrisers. I mean, phenomenal hitting. I mean, you wouldn't think it was possible, would you, to chase 246 in a T20 game comfortably? And that's what they did. They won it with 9 balls to spare. There we go. On we go. Yours anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I do worry for bowlers, really. You know, the future of bowlers, the mental health of bowlers. I mean, it needs a separate category almost to consider them, because they are on a hiding to nothing every time. And I mean, there was that game recently, wasn't there, where Jofra Archer went for 76 off 4 overs and Pat Cummins went for 60 off 4 overs. And the bowlers are sort of phlegmatic about it and, you know, throw their hands up in the air. What am I supposed to do? Some of the boundaries in the IPL are ridiculous, Mickey Mouse boundaries. It does make a bit of a farce of it sometimes, but I sort of still find it, intriguing to watch. And it has a lot of the great bits of cricket and some of the bad bits, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I kind of embrace it all. I mean, yesterday I watched the end of the Warwickshire game. I watched, the last half an hour, 40 minutes of that, and then once that finished, I went downstairs and I watched the end of the IPL match. And you get the two ends of the spectrum, both equally sort of beguiling, really, with their own fascinations. And that's the beauty of cricket. There's something there for everyone. I tend to like it all. I mean, some people are in their own particular bunker, and that's their own prerogative. But yeah, it's the wonderful world of cricket, which we celebrate on this podcast, yours. And that's it for another episode, unless you've got anything to plug at the end.
Well, I would certainly want to be in a bunker at the moment if I was a bowler in the IPL, but there we are. No, I only to say that you mentioned the Crickverse there, a couple of pieces. I did a piece about Dhoni, as you said. I've also written about the golf and the taking a breath and how I failed to do that in a couple of one-day finals, which therefore we lost. So a couple of quite interesting little articles there, and Derek Pringle's coming up with something later in the week as well on the Crickverse. If you Google Crickverse, CRICVERSE, and if you subscribe to that, you enter the draw for free tickets for the England-India Test match at Lord's this summer in July. Can't wait for that. We'll be back very shortly for some more cricket conversation. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye for now.